Let's head to the year 2015 when my son puts up his Christmas tree in his playroom. Let's get into it. Hey, welcome back to my channel. Hope you're all doing well out there. Today we're going to talk about the last installment in the Back to the Future trilogy. But before we do that, do me a favor, like, comment, and subscribe. Join me here. I greatly would appreciate that. Now, if you hear any noise during this video, it's because my son is setting up his Christmas tree up here in the playroom. So we're just going to work on through this video. Part 3 came out May 25th of 1990, about 6 months after the release of Part 2. Part 2 dropped on November 22nd of 89. It's rated PG like the other two films, an hour and 58 minutes long, had a budget of $40 million, the same as Part 2. And upon release, it made $88 million in America and $245 worldwide. And this was the least successful, but still a nice size hit for Universal and Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale. Speaking of those gentlemen, Robert Zemeckis was back to direct this film, and he co-wrote the script with Bob Gale once again. Now, cast-wise, we got Michael J. Fox back as Marty McFly. We got Christopher Lloyd back as Dr. Emmett Brown. Our new addition, most notable new addition to this cast, is Mary Steenburgen. She plays Clara Clayton, who ends up being a love interest of Dr. Brown. We got Tom Wilson back as Buford Mad Dog Tannen and Biff Tannen in this film, playing dual roles. We also got Lea Thompson playing, well, Marty's mom, and Maggie McFly, one of his distant relatives, and even Michael J. Fox plays her husband, Seamus McFly, which is a long-distance relative of Marty McFly. Now, just like the second film, this film picks up right at the end of Part 2. We see Marty, the first Marty, go back to 1985. The Doc's celebrating the streets, and here comes Marty that just came back from 1985 to say, hey, Doc, I need your help. Doc passes out, and then we have our credits, and then we pick up in Doc's house where Doc wakes up, thought it's all a dream, but no, it's not. Nope, Marty is back and needs his help to get the DeLorean and get back to 1985, but there's a small problem. Doc Brown wrote Marty. He got the letter at the end of Part 2 saying that he's a blacksmith in the Old West in 1885. And he tells Marty, do not come for me at all. Go back to 1985. I am doing fine and I'm living happily. And he doesn't want to mess with time anymore. Now they find Doc had left instructions. He buried the DeLorean in this old abandoned mine. So they blow it open. They find the DeLorean. But also while they're there, there's a cemetery nearby where they find a tombstone for one Dr. Emmett Brown who was shot in the back. And Marty says, I'm going to go and save you, go back to 1885, get you, and we're going back to 1985. And that's what happens. They fix the DeLorean. Marty goes to the Old West, meets Dr. Brown in this little town of Hill Valley, although it's very smaller then. It's definitely a Western town. And we meet Mad Dog Tannen, which Marty finds out right away is pretty much the main bad guy in this town, in the area. And Mad Dog tries to hang him. Doc saves Marty, drives off Mad Dog, and they regain their friendship. Pretty soon, Doc meets Clara Clayton because they save her from going over into a ravine. And basically, they have to get out of her before Doc gets shot. But Marty intervenes when Doc would have gotten shot, and now Marty is the one that's going to get shot and killed by Mad Dog Tannen. And his name's going to go on the tombstone, which means they have to figure this out and get their asses back to 1985. And pretty much it is just Doc's fallen in love. Marty's trying to talk him out of it and going back to 1985 without him because Doc says he's going to stay in 1885 with Clara Clayton. And finally, they use a locomotive to push the DeLorean up to 88 miles an hour. Marty goes back to 1985. Doc saves Clara because she's hanging off the locomotive. They cruise off with the hoverboard, and Marty goes back without Doc, and he feels he will never see him again. He goes and finds Jennifer, and they go to the train tracks where the DeLorean was destroyed by another train, and Doc shows up in that locomotive he turned into a time machine. They say their goodbyes. Doc goes off somewhere in time, and that's the end of our trilogy. What to like about this film? Well, I think the setting. Taking it to the Old West was a sheer act of brilliance. Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis are fans of Westerns. I like Westerns too. Not a huge fan, but I do. There's some Westerns I really, really enjoy, and they do a nice job here. It's basically a time travel movie that ends up in the Old West. I wouldn't say this is a complete Western, even though it takes place in the West, but it's a very good, effective Western with Doc and Marty. And Marty thinks he's a gunslinger at one point because he gets a free Colt revolver, or a revolver for this game that he shot really well at. And the guy thinks that he wants him to use his gun to kill Mad Dog Tannen, so it's good press for Colt. So Marty fancies himself as this badass. He calls himself Clint Eastwood, which he actually asked Clint Eastwood for permission to use his name in this film. The set design's great. Dean Cundey came back to shoot this film, so it looks amazing. Dean Cundey's actually in the film. He plays a photographer when Doc and Marty get their picture taken in front of the clock that's about to be hoisted up for the clock tower, which plays a prominent role through the whole trilogy. I think Marty and Doc's chemistry, once again, is fantastic. Doc's chemistry with Clara Clayton, or Mary Steenburgen, is great. And Thomas Wilson as Mad Dog Tana he's been great through this whole trilogy, and he's awesome here as well. The whole cast here is great. So there's nothing to complain here. The effects are pretty damn good once again. In 4K, some of the effects, especially towards the end, look a little hokey, but still, for a movie shot back then, it looks awesome on 4K on that disc, on that box set. If you don't have it and you're a fan of this trilogy, highly recommend it. The transfers are very well done and it sounds great. I love this film as well. I love this just as much as I love the second film. This is a film too, though, when I was younger, I didn't care for as much. The first one's still my favorite to this day. But even this one grew on me. Although I will say when I was younger, I liked this one more than the second one at that time. Now I like them both equally. I don't really have anything negative to say. I don't think it's as good or reaches the heights of the original, but it's a damn good movie and the pace keeps moving. And we get it caps off the trilogy in a very satisfying way where Doc's okay, Marty and Doc's friendship will live on, although they're not going to see each other, and now Doc's married and has 2 children. Marty can go off with Jennifer and do what they're going to do. It definitely is a satisfying ending to these characters that we've grown to love through these 3 films. And seriously, Doc and Marty are one of the best duels ever in cinema. They're great, and their chemistry here is no different. Again, the cast is fantastic. It's directed, Robert Zemeckis directs the shit out of this film. I really like this film. It's a really well done sequel. ZZ Top did a song for this film. They're actually in the movie as the town band when they're having that little party or get together. Honestly, at the end of the day, this is one of the best trilogies in cinema, in my opinion. I didn't say it's the best, but it's one of the best. Starting off that perfect first film and 2 kick-ass sequels, I would give Back to the Future Part 3 a 9.5 out of 10. I like it that much. Right on par with Part 2. My favorite is still Part 1. Part 1 is a masterpiece, and it's damn near perfect. I think it's a perfect film. So yes, 9.5 out of 10 for Back to the Future 3. What are your thoughts on this third film in the Back to the Future trilogy? Leave a comment down below. Let me know. Hit the thumbs up and subscribe button. Share this video. I would appreciate that. I will be back next week before Thanksgiving with a little film called Blood Rage, a Thanksgiving slasher film. We're going to talk about that one. But until then, bye.